And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Love is Greater Than Fear Spiritual Center. I am Reverend Derek, and I am super excited for our first Sunday talk of the year. We have an exciting topic to dive into this morning. But before we do that, if you're watching one of our videos for the very first time, be sure to check out our website, loveisgreaterthanfear.org. Check us out on social media if you want to learn more about the center as well. So we're going to begin this morning with an opening prayer. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes, relax in your seat. We take a nice, big, deep breath together. And dear God, dear universe, dear whatever you call that thing that is greater than you, we invite you into our minds. We invite you into our hearts this morning. We ask that you fill us with your peace, with your joy, that you remind us of the perfection that is within us. We ask that whatever miracle is needed for anyone joining us this morning, dear God, that it comes to them quickly. And we take a moment and we bless everyone on planet Earth who is getting together this morning to celebrate the God of their understanding, whether they join together in a church, a temple, a mosque, whatever it might be, dear God. We bless them with our love. We extend your peace and your joy. And for everyone all around the world, dear God, whether they worship or join together or not, may you guide us all along our journey from fear to love and pave the way with miracles. Together we say, Amen. So good morning. Today I want to talk to you about the hero within you. Now, this is going to be our topic this morning, but it's also going to be our topic, our theme for the whole year. Many of us are wondering how we can overcome some challenges that we have in our lives. Many of us have challenges that we have already brought into 2023 from 2022. And I'm going to guess some of us have challenges and obstacles that we're facing today that we have been facing for several years, maybe a decade or two. And these challenges can be a variety of challenges and a variety of obstacles that we face every day. We have the obstacles we face as individuals: loneliness, anxiety, depression, financial trouble, business trouble. You might have grief or heartbreak, health problems, a child that's addicted to drugs. We ourselves could be addicted to something, whether it's food, alcohol, or even relationships, or even thoughts. And we all have our own unique individual obstacles that we're facing this year. And then also as a collective, as the world is, we have obstacles we face as a world too. Political problems, racism, homophobia, transphobia, starving children all across the world, disease, war, tons of obstacles and challenges that we face as individuals and also as a collective. And very often, many people think, well, if only someone else would fix this, if only someone else would come to my life and help cure my loneliness, if only somebody else could help cure my anxiety, my disease, if only someone else could come along and stop war and feed the starving children and do this and do that. Whatever it might be, I'm sure you can relate to the idea that in your obstacle that you're facing this year, that you wish there was some outside person, circumstance, or force that would help you and would make this right for you. Now, too often we are praying for the things around us to change. Too often we're praying for that person to come save us from our grief and from our loneliness. Too often we're expecting the people in power in the government to do something about the starving children, to do something about the war. Too often we're expecting some outside person or circumstance to create the miracle and do the change for us. I remember about 10 years ago when I was really depressed and I kept praying. I'd been through a relationship, it had ended, and I kept praying to God, send me someone else, dear God. Send me someone else to cure my loneliness, to help with this depression, to help me get over this other person, to help me with my grief that I am experiencing. God did no such thing. Never did someone else show up to help me with that situation. Let me change that. Not that no one showed up to help me, but my idea that another person could come into my life and cure me of the loneliness I had. Not only was that not the right solution, but that poor person that would come into my life with me expecting them to cure my loneliness, my depression, my grief, whatever it might be. The lesson I had to learn there, and I think that the lesson most of us are in the process of learning, is that it is not some outside person. It is not some outside circumstance that is going to change. It is not some person who is suddenly going to change your finances for you. It's not some, you're not going to just like suddenly like, we want to just win the lottery, right, to fix our financial problems. We want this person to show up. We want this circumstance to change. And, you know, winning the lottery, a new relationship, a new job, a new career, those could be part of the miracle. But what we really are on the process of learning is to tune into the hero that is within each and every single one of us. There's a reason our society is obsessed with superheroes right now. We have been obsessed with superheroes for, at least when it comes to movies, for a solid 2 decades, right? We're obsessed with those superheroes because I believe that they speak to a truth that is within us. I believe that superheroes speak to that part of us that knows we can't wait, rely, depend on someone outside of us or some outside circumstance to come along and change our lives for us. What we need to learn and what the message of the superhero stories is that you are the hero. You are the hero that has the ability to bend time and space and transform your life into something else. That hero is within you. Now, in A Course in Miracles, it doesn't specifically use the word hero, but in lesson 38 of the workbook, it says as the mantra for that day, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. I want you to take a moment and just, I'm going to say it one more time. I want you to just let that enter your consciousness. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Now, be aware of how you internally responded to that mantra. Did you believe it? Did you question it? What do you think that word holiness means? Now, in A Course in Miracles, the word holiness is very similar to the idea in Buddhism of the whole mind. So your holiness is the part of your mind that is whole and remembers who it is, remembers that it is a child of God, remembers that the way to think and the way to be is a way to think of love and a way to be in love. It is the part of your mind that does not experience the childhood trauma. It is the part of the mind that is not jealous, it is not competitive, it is not angry, it is not sad. It is the part of the mind that you share with every brother and sister on the planet. It's the deep down part of you that is true. Notice it doesn't say there is nothing you cannot do. It does not say there is nothing you can't do with your own abilities and your own strength. It doesn't say that there is nothing your ego cannot do. It doesn't say that there is anything, that there is nothing that you as a physical person cannot do. Because we know that we as people, as individuals, especially as people who think predominantly with fear, that there are limitations on what we can and cannot do. Spiritual communities are really big about saying to you, there is nothing you cannot do. But that is a lie. There are limitations on what you can and cannot do. However, when it comes to your holiness, when it comes to the whole part of your mind, the part of your mind who remembers who it is love, and why it is here to love. When you're in that place of your mind, there is nothing that holiness cannot do. Lesson 38 goes on to say, your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God at one with the mind of his creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do. Your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. It can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. Let's talk about what exactly this means. It's telling us in A Course in Miracles that there is nothing your holiness cannot do. This is another way of saying there is nothing that the hero within you cannot do. Think about a superhero for a moment. Let's consider Superman. Superman is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. It's like him and Wonder Woman are neck and neck for me. It's really hard for me to pick one. But let's talk about Superman, for example. Superman, much like Jesus Christ, had a unique birth situation, a divine birth. And then he developed supernatural powers as a child and was sent to Earth to save mankind. For those of you who don't read comic books, the planet the Superman is from was falling apart and dying. His parents took him. They specifically sent him to Smallville, Kansas, and to be raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent. They specifically sent him there, knowing that with all these powers he was going to have, it was really important that he grew up in a loving household. He comes to Smallville, Kansas, and he begins to develop these supernatural powers. Now, he hasn't become Superman yet. He doesn't have a cape yet. His name is Clark Kent. And as he is going through his adolescent years, moving into his 20s and early 30s, fun fact, both Jesus and Superman develop into themselves at around the same age of 33, 34. Just a fun fact for you. Before he dons that cape, he saw things in the world that were wrong. He saw people who needed help. And it's very interesting. Him being exposed to our sun gave him supernatural strengths. He was able to reverse all the laws of the world. He was able to fly. He had super strength. He had laser vision. He had a frost breath. He had a variety of powers that helped him to reverse all the laws of the world. And so when he comes into seeing those, in some versions of the stories, his dad is like, no, keep that to yourself. Don't let the world see your powers. You are Clark Kent. Put on these glasses. Be a nerd. Keep yourself safe. But that wasn't cool with Clark Kent. He'd grown up in a town where he really loved people, and he really saw people for who they were, and they had accepted him as one of their own. So the first time that Clark Kent saw, in the movie Man of Steel, for example, when the school bus goes off the bridge and into the water and all the children are drowning, and he looks around and he knows he has the power to help everyone. Without a cape, he leaps into action. He pulls that school bus out of the water. Then he dives back in, rescues a kid who had been bullying him, and pulls him out of the water. Long before he had his cape, he was doing the right thing. Wonder Woman is very much the same. If you know the story of Wonder Woman was, her mother desperately wanted a child, and the gods told her, go to the beach at dawn, carve a child out of clay, and we will bring her to life. Her mother does exactly that. So this is a virgin birth, right? She creates Wonder Woman out of clay. Zeus takes it from there. The gods bless her with powers and strengths. She goes up there on Themyscira, or Paradise Island, whatever you want to call it. She goes up there learning, studying philosophy, studying the ways of the Amazons. and she develops into a beautiful and powerful woman. When she first sees Steve Trevor, the first man she ever sees on her island and need of help, she leaps into action to help him despite her mother saying no. And then when she tells her mother we should go to man's world and we should fight the forces of evil there, her mother says no. And Diana says, I'm going anyway. It's the right thing to do. She goes to man's world. She sees war. She sees these horrible things she never even experienced on her island. And she begins to make things right to the best of her ability. She doesn't wait for someone to help her, show her the way, tell her what she should or shouldn't do. She looks around at what's happening and she says, you know, you people are crazy. I can't believe you live like this, but I'm going to help. And there's a scene in the movie with Gal Gadot where there's a village of people that are in need of help. And Steve Trevor tells her, no, we can't go help them. We got to stick to the strategy. And that is not cool with her. The holiness, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. The right-minded self, the awakened self, wants to help. Very often in spiritual communities, there are people that think, well, you know, I'm awake, and the world is crazy and it's a mess, and I'm going to stand here and do nothing. That is not an awakened person. The awakened person, the Christ self, the Buddha mind, leaps into action to help people all around them. Now, these stories of Superman and Wonder Woman are very similar to the stories of Buddha and Jesus Christ. These are actually stories we've been telling for thousands of years about these children born of a miraculous birth with supernatural powers who show others how they can overcome the obstacles in their life. Now, here I am, and I just said to you, there is nothing your holiness cannot do. I just said there is a hero within you that can overcome your loneliness, can overcome your anxiety, can overcome your depression, can overcome your financial hardships, your health problems, whatever it is that you might be facing. There is a hero within you, otherwise known as your holiness, that can save you from whatever you are experiencing, whatever pain or suffering, both as an individual and as a collective. Now, as I'm saying that to you, there is nothing your holiness cannot do. There is nothing the hero within you cannot do. You might be wondering then, Derek, why don't I experience that? Why do I not have enough money for retirement? Why hasn't the love of my life shown up? Why isn't the job showing up? Why am I still addicted, Derek? Why am I still overeating, Derek? Like, why are all of these things happening to me if you are telling me there is nothing that my holiness cannot do and that my holiness can reverse all the laws of the world? Well, that is a great question, and that's why we have talks like this. The answer to that is that within every mind of every person that lives on this planet, there are two voices speaking. There is a voice of love speaking. There is a voice of fear speaking. There is a voice of God. There is a voice of ego. They're simultaneously speaking to us. The Course in Miracles tells us the problem with the world is that the thinking of the world is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God, the thinking of the universe, the thinking of love. Most of us, if not all of us, are listening to the voice of fear as it speaks to us every day. The Course in Miracles tells us that the voice of fear, the voice of ego, the voice of doubt, whatever you want to call it, not only does it speak loudest, it speaks first. And because we are listening to that voice, we are experiencing a lack of miracles all around us as individuals and as a collective. Those two voices are going on all the time simultaneously. It's as if you are in a room, and on one side you have one radio blasting heavy metal, and on the other side of the room you have another radio playing classical music. With that heavy metal blasting, you are not going to hear the classical music. With your ego blasting, you are not going to hear the voice for God, the holiness within you that has the solution for your obstacle. Another way to talk about this is gravity. So we know about physical gravity, right? When we work out, when we do exercises, we're working against physical gravity to build muscle. The same is true for fear. fear is a gravity. It is a gravity that pulls us down. And you've experienced this in your life. You've woken up in the morning with a positive mindset, with a can-do attitude, and then you saw something in the news, you got a text message, you got a phone call, you saw something on social media, someone said something to you unkind, you got a flat tire, you broke a heel, whatever it might be, and the gravity of fear pulled you down even more into doubt. And that's the thing about fear, is it doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like nervousness, anxiety, depression. Sometimes it looks like an inflated ego of, oh yeah, I can do this, while denying what's happening in the moment. And sometimes it just straight up looks like denial. Now, we have these two voices talking to us. We have the voice for fear, we have the voice for love, simultaneously speaking to us every day. This is very similar to the superhero. You take Wonder Woman, for example. Now, Wonder Woman is a fully enlightened, awakened individual. She doesn't have those voices of fear. She sees them around her. She does not have the voice of fear, the voice of doubt, because she is an awakened being. Same thing for Superman. He is an awakened being. When he sees someone in danger, he doesn't hesitate to help. He doesn't doubt, oh, can I do this? And you might be thinking, well, he has a ton of superpowers. Of course he doesn't have doubt. Superman goes up against things bigger and more powerful than him every freaking day. But he is not riddled with fear and insecurity and the gravity of fear that the rest of us have to deal with every day. But instead of having a voice for fear, what does the superhero have? A super villain, right? Superman has to deal with, think about it. Superman's biggest villain on the planet is who? Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor has no superpowers. He is a man, but he is a man who is obsessed with the physical world. He is not an awakened man. He is a man who is possessed, a man who craves power by the terms of the physical world. He is jealous of Superman. He hates Superman. He wants to collect as much power and esteem and fame and money and all that he can. That's what he is obsessed with, and that's what turns him into the supervillain. And that's what Superman has to deal with. Now, the challenge in our world over the past few decades, we used to think of people like the Lex Luthors, these successful billionaires who say what they want to say and get people all riled up. I'm not going to name any names, but you know who the Lex Luthors of the world are. But we live in a time where we've stopped idolizing the heroes, and we now idolize the supervillain. We now idolize the Lex Luthors of the world. We now want to talk about them. So many personal development quotes and so many things like that are attributed to people who are Lex Luthors in our world. Same thing is true for Wonder Woman. In Wonder Woman's story, one of her greatest villains is the cheetah. For those of you who don't know who the cheetah is, just sound a woman who is able to transform into a cheetah. Now, the very thing that's interesting about both Superman and Wonder Woman's villains is that Superman and Wonder Woman are spiritual beings. They are Christ figures. Their villains are people who are obsessed with the material world. The cheetah in some of the stories is a beautiful woman who is obsessed with collecting gold, collecting artifacts. So when she sees Wonder Woman arrive to man's world and she sees the golden lasso of truth, she must have it. She must have the things that are Wonder Woman's, and she's jealous of Wonder Woman. She's consumed with being competitive with Wonder Woman, and in the process, her and Lex Luthor and all the supervillains kill a lot of innocent people. And yet in the stories, the Superman and the Wonder Woman and the Black Panther and the Captain America and the Iron Man, all those characters always overcome these super villains because there is nothing their holiness cannot do. And it's not that these super villains are just, often they're physically weaker, often they're not. You think of Superman and some of his other villains, Metallo, Doomsday, other characters who are more powerful and stronger than him, and he doesn't let that stop him. So there's nothing your holiness cannot do. And you have this voice of fear that is constantly speaking to you. So what do we do about this voice for fear? Well, we silence the radio. We spend a little less time on social media. We spend more time in quiet and in silence before we go into the material world. We spend more time every day remembering who we are. Now, earlier I mentioned about how obsessed with these stories our culture is. And here's what's really fascinating about this. You know, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, they came out in like the 30s and 40s. That's when the comic book world just really began to explode. And the superhero, as you know it today, was developed at that time. But here's what's really interesting thing about that. You can go back hundreds and thousands of years, and mankind has been telling these same stories for thousands of years. You think of Jesus Christ, right? He is a superhero of that time. You think of Buddha, right? Buddha is the same thing as Wonder Woman and Superman. It is a unique birth situation. Buddha was born to a wealthy family where he never saw poverty, he never saw sickness, he never even saw older people. All he ever saw was just like beauty and all the things that would satisfy a young prince. That's all he ever saw until one day he awakened and saw the pain and suffering of the world, and he decided, I'm going to do something about it. Now, you can go back even further to the Greek god Dionysus. Dionysus is one of the oldest Christ-like stories, a virgin birth, miraculous powers, and then a sacrifice slash death, much like Jesus experienced according to tradition. These stories go back thousands of years. I took a mythology class in college, and it was really fascinating. We were exploring the works of Joseph Campbell. And as we were exploring his works, and we were reading all these different myths from ancient Greece, from ancient Egypt, and then also looking at Jesus and modern heroes, what was really interesting that was pointed out, that was based on what we understand of how people were able to communicate thousands of years ago, they weren't able to share these stories. It's not like the people of ancient Egypt were hanging out on their lunch break with the people of South America and telling them the story about this Christ figure, telling the story about their gods, and they were all being passed around. That absolutely was not happening. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have the means to travel around and share those stories. They were unable to do that. So why is it that this story of the Christ figure, of Superman, Wonder Woman, Dionysus, the Greek gods, the ancient Egyptian gods, why are all of these stories, why do they all exist in every culture from the beginning of time? I will tell you why. Now, in that class, they proposed two things, okay? They said either it's just coincidence, right? It's just coincidence that man has been telling the same story for thousands of years, or it's because all of these stories exist within the man, within the mind of man. And if we probe the mind of man, we will see that all these stories are but archetypes that we all have experienced, that we all adore, that we all cling to, that hold to be psychological truths for us. Now, if you go even deeper into the mind of man, you will find that we are all one and we are all connected. The reason why we are obsessed with these superhero stories is that these are the stories of us. These are the stories of our own individual and collective journey that we're going through right now. It is the journey from fear to love. Each and every single one of us is the hero and the villain in our own life. Each one of us were born miraculously. Of all the millions of potentials that could be birthed when your parents hooked up, you were born. You know, one time I remember I was talking to one of my parents, and I remember thinking, gosh, they can't stand each other. It's what a miracle that they even had sex in 1983. What a freaking miracle. That is a miraculous birth in my mind, that these two people who couldn't stand each other were that intimate. But each and every single one of us have a miraculous birth. Each and every single one of us have supernatural powers that stem from our holiness, the right use of our minds, from the hero within us. It is this hero that is within you today that can overcome whatever your financial problem is. It is the hero that is within you that can overcome any diagnosis you've gotten from a doctor. It is the hero within you that can overcome your relationship challenges, your grief, your addiction. It is the hero within us that can save the world from war and children starving. It is the hero within us that is able to do all of these things. And the hero within us, its supernatural power is compassion. It is compassion and getting into action when it sees something is wrong and it sees something is not right. So, how do we begin to shift from this idea that there is nothing that our holiness cannot do, from there is a hero within me that can overcome any obstacle? We begin with meditation and prayer. Begin by spending at least 5 minutes every morning with your eyes closed, dedicating the time to God, dedicating the time to silence, relaxing the mind, relaxing the heart, tuning out the physical world, turning down that radio station that's blasting the heavy metal, turning down our thoughts, turning down whatever the volume of the world around us. When we turn down that volume, we can begin to hear that voice for God. We begin to find that hero within us that can overcome any obstacle. Remember, the Course in Miracles says, your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God at one with the mind of his creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do. Your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. It can do so in connection with yourself and with all problems. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. There is nothing your holiness cannot do. I invite you to take one of two thoughts into your week this week. Either the mantra from lesson 38, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. But if you want to update that to a different mantra, we could just say, there is nothing the hero within me cannot do. You are Wonder Woman. You are Superman. You are the Black Panther. You are Iron Man. You are Thor. And some days we're Catwoman. So I want you to remember that. Now we're going to take that into prayer and wrap up our talk this morning. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath. And dear God, dear universe, dear whatever you call that thing that is greater than you, whatever you call that thing that birthed you, whether it's a divine mother, a divine father, it doesn't matter. We invite you into our minds. We invite you into our hearts. Today, dear God, we have explored one of your spiritual truths, that there is nothing that our holiness cannot do. We have reminded ourselves of this ancient journey from fear to love. We have reminded ourselves of the hero that lies within us and its ability to overcome any obstacle that we might be facing. And so, dear God, here's what we ask from you this morning. That you remind us as we go through the week of our spiritual strength, our spiritual courage, our spiritual wisdom, and our spiritual truth of who it is that we actually are as a son of God, as a daughter of God, as a child of God, dear God, whatever words we use. Remind us of who we are. Help us to turn down the volume of the ego so that we can hear your sweet sound, your sweet reminder that we are by our very nature whole. We are by our very nature perfect. We are by our very nature guiltless and shameless. We are by our very nature cured of any disease, free of any financial burdens, connected to our loved ones. And at the perfect place and perfect time, dear God, we ask for a miracle for anyone who is listening right now, or anyone who is listening to a recording, or anyone around the world who is asking for help, dear God. We ask for a miracle in their life. We ask for that shift in perception. We ask for the volume of fear to be turned way down and the volume of the spirit to be turned way up, so we may be guided, guarded, and directed in the coming days and in this coming week. We take a nice deep breath. And together we say, Amen. If you feel that, if you receive that, give me an amen in the comment section. Now, it has truly been an honor to get with you this morning and to explore the hero within you and the idea that there is nothing your holiness cannot do. I have a couple additional resources for anyone who feels they could use a little extra help along their spiritual journey. If you want to get more information about A Course in Miracles, I recommend you go to acim.org. On acim.org. You can get more information about the course. You can read it for free as well. A variety of resources over there for you, for anyone wanting to learn more about A Course in Miracles. If you want to learn more about our center, you can go over to loveisgreaterthanfear.org. On our website, you are going to find a variety of free resources, prayer services. You're going to find information about our social media. You're also going to find information about our coaching and counseling programs. Now, our center relies entirely on your generous donations. We have a pending 501c3. So if you feel served by today's message, if you like what we're doing over here and you want to help support us financially, you can make a donation on PayPal at Love is Greater Center, or you can just go over to loveisgreaterthanfear.org, click on the donate page, get more information. On that donate page, you're going to see what we do with the money that comes to our center. You're going to see how it helps us to pay for streaming services, hosting the website, a variety of different things we use to interact and teach. You're also going to find that your donations also help us to offer free coaching and free counseling to people who want it. And also it helps secure the future of this center as we go into a new year and begin doing live events and meeting more in person, just things like that. So if you want to get more information, be sure to go over to loveisgreaterthanfear.org. Last thing I'll leave you with is there is probably somebody on your Facebook timeline and Messenger, on YouTube, somewhere on social media, who could benefit from the talk today, from the conversation we're having. So don't forget to like, comment, and share this with your friends and with your family so that more people can be reminded today of the hero that lies within them. I appreciate you showing up. I hope you have a miraculous week, and we will talk soon. Until next time, love one another.